lawmakers came back into session to deal with vetoes by the governor. The governor had vetoed over 24 measures, two of which were dealt with this week in this special override session. One of them, the bill we've talked about a lot here, is the Fairness in Women's Sports Act, which failed by 2 votes. It needed 70 votes to pass out of the House. It passed the Senate, failed 2 votes short of what it needed in the House. It's got a lot of folks upset because this is something that had overwhelming support. The other measure that failed to pass actually out of the Senate in the override session was a concealed handgun constitutional carry for all citizens, law-abiding citizens. Joining me now to talk about what happened is the chairman of the Republican Party in the state of Louisiana, Louis Gurvich. Chairman, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Tony, and it's good to hear your voice.
Well, it's good to see you. Let me ask you this, because you put out a pretty strong statement yesterday, and I want to commend the Republican Party for taking strong positions in this override session that was held this week. What happened? Why did the legislature fall short?
Well, first of all, you have to take it in context. This is the first ever veto override session. The governor of Louisiana is one of the most powerful executives in the nation. That's in the Constitution and statutorily. To even have a veto override session is unheard of. It's never happened under this Constitution before, going back, I think it took effect in 1975. So we were very fortunate to convene it. So the governor was fighting his tooth and nail all the time. And he also, it should be noted, that he managed to veto 28 bills, individual bills. So this was more than twice as many vetoes as he's ever done before. And they had to do with some pretty visceral stuff that I think our activists felt very strongly about. Constitutional carry was one, fairness in women's sports was another, but there were other bills, the election integrity bills. I mean, he just went on a rant and vetoed a whole bunch of bills, and he paid the price for it, because this is the first time ever that we've had a veto override session in Louisiana, in modern Louisiana history.
Chairman Gurvich, we have in the state of Louisiana, you have a supermajority of Republicans in the Senate, but not in the House. A few votes, 68 total Republicans, if I'm not mistaken, in the House. So not a supermajority there. But this is obviously the Republicans. This is what's set up. They're doing conservative government most of the time. That's the conflict with the governor. But a lot of disappointment, quite frankly, with some of the Republican leadership and Republican members. Do you think this is going to have some residual effect? Are we going to see this play its way out in future elections?
This will have residual effect. I think everyone on both sides of the aisle agrees. Now, there's some good in here. And let me say this, that our leadership got this thing going. We convened the session. We have a 2/3 veto-proof majority in the Senate, and we were successful on the Fairness in Women's Sports Act there, or bill, I should say. And we failed by 2 votes in the House, but we only had 69 of 105 votes. So we just barely lacked the 2/3 majority. We were hoping, and our speaker told me that he was assured that we would have some social conservative Democrat support as well as some independents. That didn't materialize. The governor, John Bel Edwards, who purports to be a moderate of some sort, but really is not, did an enormous amount of arm twisting, intimidation, everything else you can imagine. And at the end, we fell 2 votes short. But the massive majority of the legislators were in favor of overriding his veto. We just didn't have the 2/3 veto requirement in one of the 2 houses.
There was a lot of grassroots activity surrounding these bills, especially the fairness in women's sports. Again, is this, are we seeing a new wave of activism among citizens?
This veto override session would not have occurred at all had it not been for our activists who were on this thing approximately 6 weeks out. They let their legislators know, Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever stripe, that this was terrifically important to them. And they got this thing going. And it took all the governor's intimidation tactics to put paid to this in this session. But there's a sea change going on here. Things that have never happened before are happening now. And this is preparing the way. Activists mean everything in the political world, the new political world in which we live. It's important now more than ever before to contact your legislators, go to the meetings, make the phone calls, go to the legislative chambers, let them know where you are. Activism is supremely important. Our enemies know this, and I think increasingly so we're of a like mind. We understand that you can push the needle with legislators and that we're going to get this passed in the not too distant future because it's going to come up again. You can't pass bills by these margins forever, and vetoes eventually are going to fail, and we're eventually going to be successful. This is for the women and the girls who are, this means everything to them. This will preserve women's sports if we know. We have to win this fight ultimately.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Chairman Louis Gurvich, thanks so much for joining us today, and thanks for your leadership in the Republican Party in Louisiana, speaking out boldly and strongly and with clarity on these issues. We appreciate it.
Thanks for all you do, Tony.